While Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Cheryl Grant-Bethel has been ordered not to speak to the media, her attorney surely can. In an interview with our news team, Wayne Monroe exclusively revealed that Attorney General John Delaney QC has been intimidating his client, which he says will be dealt with in the courtroom arena if it doesn't stop.
We have been instructed to commence action, especially because the attempts by the present Attorney General to intimidate Mrs. Grant-Bethel are continuing apace. That is very disappointing for a lawyer of long standing and who is a Queen's Counsel to be engaging in what would intimidation of a public officer in her office would amount to misfeasance in public office by him. That is a very serious thing. It is very disheartening to see a senior lawyer act in that manner. The present Attorney General's behavior through all of this is totally disheartening. And so, separate and apart from seeking judicial review, if his conduct continues, it is likely that we're going to have to seek some sort of interim relief against him because it's just not appropriate.
There has been much back and forth between the government and opposition over the appointment of a foreigner as the new Director of Public Prosecutions. Jamaican Vinette Graham-Allen is set to take up the post in August, but according to Mr. Monroe, that may not happen as he plans to file an application for judicial review very soon.
It's going to be an application for judicial review, and so the question here is whether she received a fair hearing with regard to her application, whether or not the body that interviewed her was fairly constituted, and if it was not fairly constituted, what are the consequences, bearing in mind that one would assume they would have dealt with her application and then dealt with this other person's application at the same time, the same way constituted.
As for Prime Minister Hubert Ingram's comments about Mrs. Grant-Bethel, Mr. Monroe, who's being assisted by Harvey Tynes, QC, and Damien Gomez, said this.
I see people trying to launch character assassination by innuendo. That's just plain cowardly, and only a coward would entertain a coward talking behind people's back. Unfortunately, you have a lot of cowardly Bahamians who thrive on nothing but that.
The Prime Minister told House members last week that he initially supported Mrs. Grant-Bethel for the director post, but withdrew that support for, quote, good and valid. For JCN News, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.